is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to episode 96 of the Greyt podcast. On today's episode, we got week 13 preview. I know I'm getting both my episodes out early this week. I got a busy week ahead of me, so I had to just go ahead and get these out here. Obviously, we got new college football playoff rankings tonight. We'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll give my thoughts at the end if we have time here, but let's get right on into the game picks. Let's start off. Where do we want to go? Let's go Missouri, Oklahoma. This is one of those SEC games where if you're Oklahoma, you need to be careful. I'm not sure if they've said if Bo Perbula's starting, but either way, Oklahoma needs to be careful. This is one of those games you just came off a big win on the road in Tuscaloosa. You do not need to sleepwalk against this Missouri team. They are a good football team. So I think that, sorry, I was taking a sip of water there. So I think Oklahoma needs to be very careful with this game, but I'm going to pick them to win. I think they're the better team. Miami versus Virginia Tech. It's at Virginia Tech. And, you know, speaking of Virginia Tech, James Franklin is now the new head coach at Virginia Tech. I think that is an unbelievable hire for them. I think that is the perfect situation for James Franklin. I think it's a match made in heaven. I think he will do great things at Virginia Tech as long as they just give him some time, okay? Like, Virginia Tech's not going to all of a sudden next year just be an absolute beast in the ACC. Give it like 2 years, and then I think you're really going to see wonders for Virginia Tech. And I think it's a match made in heaven. They're not winning this game because they're not a good team this year, so give me Miami. But I really like Virginia Tech going out and getting James Franklin. Baylor at Arizona. You know how I feel about these Big 12 picks. I hate them. They feel like 50-50 because a lot of these teams are just so close together. But I'm going to go Arizona. They're the home team, and I don't really have a reason. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, maybe because, you know, Dave Aranda should be fired. That's probably a good reason. I don't understand why Baylor keeps hanging on to him, but, you know, that's a mystery. Arkansas at Texas. Ooh, this is a little bit of an interesting one. Arkansas can score the football. Okay, if there's one thing Arkansas can do, it is score and score a lot. So I think Texas needs to be careful, but Texas is in desperate. They are as desperate as it gets right now. I think they're not going to make the playoff no matter what, even if they beat Texas A&M. But there are still a lot of people who think they have a chance, and so because of that, their back is literally up against the wall. They're hanging off the edge. They have to win this game at home. So give me Texas in a must-win spot. Michigan at Maryland. I added this one because I'm very tempted to pick the upset. I'm very tempted to pick Maryland here. Also, I added this one because we have a few SEC teams who are playing cupcakes this week, which, by the way, I don't mind because the SEC plays an absolute gauntlet every week, so I do not mind a late-in-the-year cupcake, just so we're clear. I think Maryland has a chance here. They're at home. Michigan has looked, what's a nice way to say this, awful for a majority of the season. And I'm so tempted to pick Maryland, and I'm going to kick myself if I don't pick Maryland and Maryland ends up winning, but give me Michigan. They find a way to piss me off every week and somehow win, so I'll go with Michigan. Kansas State at Utah. I'm going to go with Utah. They're the better team. They have the better coach. Kansas State's been a massive disappointment this year. We're going to pretend like I did not pick them to be in the Big 12 championship, okay? We're going to pretend like that didn't happen. but give me Utah to pick up the win. Plus, they're at home. Tennessee at Florida. I think Tennessee had a bye week last week, if I remember correctly. Florida is very hot and cold, even with the interim coach bump, although that's kind of faded away at this point. They're very hot and cold. DJ either looks decent or he looks like the worst quarterback I've ever seen in my entire life. Give me Tennessee. I think we're going to get bad DJ Lagway in this game, and Tennessee really needs this win. So give me Tennessee to pick up plus they're the better team, better head coach. So BYU at Cincinnati. Obviously I think that BYU are frauds. However, I also think Cincinnati are frauds. So I think this is the battle of the frauds. So which one do I think is better? Give me BYU. I think they're better. They've found ways to win all season. They're going to find a way to win this game and possibly go to the Big 12 championship to lose again to Texas Tech. All right, let's get to the two big games of the weekend. Let's start off with Pitt at Georgia Tech. The only reason this is a big game is because these are the two decent teams in the ACC, and this is a very important matchup as far as the ACC championship game. Who do I go with, though? I think I'm going to go with Georgia Tech. They're at home. Pitt just looked completely uncompetitive against Notre Dame. And I think Georgia Tech is the better football team. Not by much, but I think they're the better football team. I think they have the better head coach. And they're at home. So give me Georgia Tech to beat Pitt. USC at Oregon. Ooh. This one is interesting, isn't it? It's at Oregon, but it doesn't matter as much because USC is used to having to go to Oregon. It's not like they're having to travel across the country. I have actually been higher on USC than a lot of people, and that's rare for me because I am notorious for saying that Lincoln Riley is such an overrated head coach, and he is. But I like this USC team this year. I think they're underrated by people. However, I think this Oregon team is just too good. And, well, I say they're too good. Oregon, in my opinion, is not a national title contender this year. I saw everything I needed to see in their game against Indiana to know that this team's not competing for a national championship this year unless they get some blessed, easy run. But I'm going to pick Oregon to win. I like them being at home. I like them. What worries me about USC is I just don't think in these big moments that Lincoln Riley knows how to win them. And I think USC's defense can absolutely still be had. And I don't think the USC offense will be able to keep up with the Oregon offense. And that Oregon defense is solid. And I just see Oregon pulling out the win here, but I think that it will be a close game. So those are the 10 picks. Why don't we go over college football playoff? What do I think the rankings are going to look like tonight? Well, let's go look at what they were last week. We know the committee likes to go off what they did last week, so what are we thinking? Why did I look up college football playoff rankings and it went to 2019? I mean, what are we doing? Okay. So this past week, we had Ohio State 1, that'll stay the same. Indiana 2, that'll stay the same. Texas A&M 3, that will stay the same. After this is where it gets interesting. I would imagine they'll put Georgia at 4. And then I would imagine they'll move Texas Tech to 6. And then I think they'll move Ole Miss to 7. I think they'll move Georgia to 4, Texas Tech to 5, Ole Miss to 6. And then it's that 7-8 spot. Alabama will be 7 or 8. It depends on if they put Alabama ahead of Oregon or behind Oregon. Yes, Oregon is 8-1. Alabama has had the much tougher schedule. They have better wins than Oregon. And honestly, I think most people would agree Alabama's probably better than Oregon. But I think the committee will value Oregon being 8-1. So I think they'll go Oregon at 7, Alabama at 8. Oh, but don't they have to move up Oklahoma? Because Alabama lost to Oklahoma. I still think Oregon will be 7. And then I guess Oklahoma 8, Alabama 9, Notre Dame 10? I guess is what they're going to do. It's going to be something like that. I think Oregon will go to 7. We'll move up 1. And then I would imagine they're going to have Oklahoma ahead of Alabama because of the head-to-head. But then where do you put Notre Dame in there? Do you go Oklahoma at 8, Notre Dame at 9, and Bama all the way back at 10? Because their one loss against Florida State is pretty bad. Notre Dame's 2 losses are at least to ranked teams. Oklahoma's 2 losses, I think, are also to ranked teams, right? One was to Texas. Who was their other loss to? I'm drawing a blank right now at who their other loss was to. Hold on. Let me just check real quick. Texas. Oh, Ole Miss. Yeah, to 2 ranked teams. One of them, a top 10 team. So I guess they could go Oregon 7, Oklahoma 8. I think Oklahoma, or they could just push Notre Dame up to 8, then do Oklahoma 9, Alabama 10. I think it might be most likely that Alabama ends up 10 here, which is kind of surprising. It'll just be interesting to see what they do from Oregon. And I think the top 6 is pretty clear here. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Georgia, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, in that order. But after that is when it'll get interesting, depending on where they put Oklahoma and where they put Alabama. And where does Oregon and Notre Dame fit into that? I would imagine Oregon's ahead of all of them, but we'll see. We had a story that LSU flew Lane Kiffin's family out to Baton Rouge. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. So that's interesting. The Lane Kiffin saga is definitely one to look out for. I heard that Ole Miss gave Lane Kiffin an ultimatum, like, oh, you need to decide whether you're staying or you're going by the Monday after the Egg Bowl. I think Lane Kiffin, though, came out today and said that's not true, but here's the thing. Who knows if it is or if it isn't true? I think I'm at a point now where I feel like Lane Kiffin's going to leave. I'm not 100% sure on that, obviously, but I just have a feeling Lane's leaving. Now, it's just a matter of where he's leaving to. I'm not going to lie. LSU is by far the better job, but I think Florida might be a better fit for Lane. I don't really know why I think that. I just kind of do. I just feel like his vibes match Florida more than LSU. But obviously both of them are going heavy after him, and obviously it will start a domino effect. If he does leave to go to LSU or Florida, it starts a domino effect because then Ole Miss has to get a new head coach. And guess what? Ole Miss is probably going to be in the playoff. So that's interesting. But we'll have to wait and see. If I had to put money down, if I had a gun to my head and they said, hey, where's Lane Kiffin going? I'm not very confident in this projection, but I'd probably say LSU. I'm not confident in that though whatsoever. I just think LSU is just going to offer a ton of money to Lane Kiffin and force him to say no. And I also think that LSU has proven that they are on the same wavelength when it comes to NIL that Lane Kiffin's on, and would be willing to offer him a bag for that NIL because we saw them do it with Brian Kelly. And I 100% am of the belief that Lane Kiffin at LSU would be dangerous. I think it would be phenomenal. I really do. I think they'd be a national title contender easily in a couple years. Easily. And again, I could be wrong. And I can tell you this much, Garrett Nussmeier would not regress as much as he did with Lane Kiffin as his head coach. I can tell you that right now. Obviously, it doesn't matter because I also wonder if Lane goes to LSU, how many people does he bring with him? I don't even know. Is Trinidad Chambliss a senior? I have no idea. Would Austin Simmons go? Would Trinidad Chambliss go? How many people would go with him to LSU? I would imagine quite a few. I'd imagine quite a few. But that has been the Week 13 preview. Crazy to think we're so close to the end of the regular season. And then we get into conference championships and then into the playoff where the big boys play. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you have an amazing week. Hope you enjoy Week 13 of college football. Don't forget to go out there and be great.